The laughter started before the human even reached the platform. It spread through the massive military hangar like a wave. Alien officers whispered to each other. Pilots smirked. Mechanics openly pointed. Even some royal guards struggled to hide their amusement. At the center of the attention walked a single human. Captain Marcus Kane, former Earth Marine, veteran of 3 interstellar campaigns, the most decorated human officer serving beyond Sol, and according to nearly everyone present. He looked ridiculous. The reason was obvious. His armor. While every soldier around him wore sleek combat suits, made from advanced nanomaterials and adaptive energy shielding, Marcus wore something that looked centuries old. The metal plating was scratched. The edges were worn. Its design seemed primitive, ancient, outdated, like something pulled from a museum. The alien princess standing beside the command platform stared at him in disbelief. Princess Alyra of Valoria, future ruler of one of the most powerful civilizations in the outer spiral. She tilted her head. Then she laughed, actually laughed. The sound echoed across the hangar. "You can't be serious." Marcus stopped. "What?" She pointed directly at his armor. That. More laughter erupted. Alyra crossed her arms. "Our military uses quantum reactive battlesuits." Marcus nodded. "That's nice. We have self-regenerating shields. Impressive. Our armor adapts to incoming threats. Very useful." The princess smiled. "Then why are you wearing a relic?" The crowd laughed again. Marcus looked down at his armor, then back at her. His expression never changed. "Because it works." That only made everyone laugh harder. None of them knew they would stop laughing very soon. The Valorians were one of the wealthiest civilizations in known space. Their technology surpassed most species. Their fleets dominated trade routes. Their military had not lost a major war in nearly 4 centuries. As a result, arrogance had become part of their culture, especially among the nobility. Princess Alyra embodied that confidence. She was brilliant, educated, respected. But she had one weakness. She judged things by appearances. Humans frustrated her. They were unpredictable messes, primitive in some ways, yet somehow successful. Marcus Kane represented everything she disliked. He ignored status, ignored titles, ignored traditions. And worst of all, he rarely explained himself. The military exercise was supposed to be routine. A joint operation between human and Valorian forces. The objective involved capturing a simulated enemy fortress on a desert moon. Nothing dangerous. Nothing complicated. The Valorians expected an easy victory. They possessed superior technology, superior numbers, superior equipment. Or so they believed. The exercise began at dawn. Hundreds of troops advanced across the Crimson Hover tanks glided overhead. Drone swarms filled the sky. Everything proceeded according to plan. Until the fortress defenses activated. Suddenly the battlefield changed. Electronic warfare systems flooded the area. Communications failed. Targeting systems malfunctioned. Advanced sensors went blind. Within minutes the Valorian force descended into chaos. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Drones crashed. Vehicles stalled. Entire formations lost coordination. Princess Alyra watched from the command center. Her confidence faded rapidly. What is happening? Technicians scrambled. Unknown interference. Restore communications. We can't. Repair the targeting systems. They're offline. The princess stared at the screens. The supposedly easy exercise was turning into a disaster. Then someone spoke. Marcus. He stood calmly near the back of the room. Looks familiar. Alyra frowned. What? We trained for this. The princess blinked. Without technology. Marcus nodded. Humans spent thousands of years fighting before computers existed. Nobody responded. Because the idea sounded absurd. Fight without advanced systems. Without artificial intelligence. Without battlefield networks.
It's impossible.
Yet Marcus simply grabbed his helmet. I'm going in. 3 hours later the exercise ended. The human team achieved complete victory. Not because of superior technology, But because they adapted, when communications failed, they used hand signals. When sensors failed, they used observation. When drones crashed, they relied on experience. The Valorians couldn't understand it, Princess Alyra especially that evening. She found Marcus sitting alone, outside the base. Twin moons glowed overhead. The desert stretched endlessly before them. The princess sat nearby. For several minutes neither spoke. Finally she asked the question. Why keep the old armor? Marcus glanced at her. You really want to know? Yes. The human rested his hands on the worn metal plates. This armor belonged to my grandfather. The princess looked surprised. He was a soldier. Marcus nodded. So was my father. He tapped the chest plate. This survived 3 wars. Alyra studied the armor differently now, not as equipment, as history. Marcus continued. Humans keep reminders. Why? So we don't forget. The princess fell silent. For the first time, she wondered if there was more to humanity than she had assumed. A month later everything changed. The Kharon Dominion attacked, without warning. Without negotiation, without mercy. Entire colonies vanished overnight. Defense fleets disappeared. Trade stations exploded. The Dominion moved with terrifying speed. Within weeks they reached Valorian territory. Panic spread. Military leaders promised victory. Reality proved different. The Kharons possessed terrifying new technology, weapons capable of disabling modern combat systems. The same weakness exposed during the military exercise. Only now the consequences were real. Fleet after fleet fell. Planetary defenses collapsed. Entire armies became blind and helpless. For the first time in centuries, Valoria faced possible extinction. Emergency meetings filled the royal palace. Admirals argued constantly. Scientists searched desperately for solutions. Nothing worked. Every new weapon failed. Every new strategy collapsed. The Kharons adapted faster. Princess Alyra watched the situation deteriorate day by day. Then she noticed something strange. Human forces weren't suffering as badly. They still took losses. But they kept fighting. They kept winning. Eventually she requested a private meeting with Marcus. The human arrived carrying the same battered armor. Of course, Alyra almost smiled. Tell me. Marcus sat down. Tell you what? How are humans resisting them? The human leaned back. The same reason my armor still matters. She waited, Marcus continued. We never trusted technology completely. The princess frowned. That makes no sense. It does if you've lived our history. He pointed toward the battlefield maps. The Kharons attack systems. Alyra nodded. Humans train people. The room became quiet, very quiet, because suddenly she understood. The Valorians relied on machines. Humans relied on humans. Technology enhanced them. It didn't replace them. And that difference was changing the war. The Dominion launched its largest offensive 2 weeks later. A massive invasion fleet entered the Valoria system. Thousands of warships. Millions of soldiers. Enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. The royal capital became their primary target. Evacuation orders spread. Citizens panicked. Military commanders prepared for a final stand. Princess Alyra stood inside the central command bunker watching reports arrive. Every update looked worse. Enemy fleets advancing. Defense lines collapsing. Orbital platforms destroyed. Then she heard something unexpected. Laughter. She turned. Marcus stood among a group of human soldiers. Laughing. The princess stared. Were you informed that we're losing? Marcus nodded. Yep, and you're laughing? One soldier grinned. We've seen worse. Alyra honestly couldn't tell whether they were brave or insane. Possibly both. The decisive battle began the following morning. The skies burned. Warships exchanged fire across orbit. Explosions illuminated entire continents. Dropships descended through clouds of plasma. Ground forces collided across vast battlefields. The Kharons expected another easy victory. Instead they encountered humans. And humans fought differently. When communications failed, they adapted. When sensors failed, they adapted. When vehicles stopped functioning, they adapted, again. And again. And again. The Kharons discovered something dangerous. Human flexibility could not be disrupted. Because it wasn't technological, it was cultural. Near the end of the battle, disaster struck. A Kharon breakthrough force penetrated the capital's defenses. Thousands of enemy soldiers surged toward the royal district. If they succeeded, the war would effectively end. Princess Alyra found herself trapped alongside military staff and government officials. Escape routes vanished. Enemy forces closed in rapidly. Panic spread. Then a familiar figure appeared. Marcus, wearing the ancient armor, carrying an old-fashioned kinetic rifle. The princess stared. "That's your plan?" Marcus checked the rifle. "It's worked before. Against an army?" The human smiled. "Let's find out." The fighting that followed became legend. Not because Marcus defeated thousands alone. He didn't. Legends exaggerate. Reality was impressive enough. The old armor absorbed impacts that shattered modern suits. The heavy plating resisted electromagnetic disruptions. Mechanical systems kept functioning. No advanced software existed to disable. No sophisticated network existed to corrupt. The armor simply worked. Exactly as Marcus had claimed. Human soldiers rallied around him. Valorian defenders followed. The counterattack began. Street by street, building by building, the enemy advance slowed, then stopped, then reversed. Something remarkable happened. Hope returned. And hope is dangerous on a battlefield. 'Cause hope spreads. Later the defenders reached the enemy command unit. Guiding it would collapse the invasion. Failing would doom the planet. Marcus volunteered immediately. Naturally, Alyra insisted on accompanying him. Also naturally, the assault team pushed through fierce resistance. Explosions shook the city. Enemy drones filled the air. Buildings collapsed around them. Yet they continued. Eventually they reached the command structure. A towering mobile fortress surrounded by elite Kharon troops. The battle reached its climax. Marcus stood before the fortress, his armor scarred, his helmet cracked, his body exhausted. Alyra watched him raise his rifle, then charge forward. Not because victory was guaranteed, not because survival was likely, because someone had to. That single act inspired everyone around him. Humans, Valorians, even civilians, they followed. The fortress fell 32 minutes later. The invasion collapsed shortly afterward. 3 months later the war ended. The Kharon Dominion withdrew. Peace negotiations began. Entire worlds celebrated. Valoria survived. Against impossible odds, the royal capital hosted a massive ceremony honoring those who fought. Thousands attended, military leaders, citizens, foreign dignitaries. At the center stood Princess Alyra. Beside her stood Marcus Kane, still wearing the same armors. The princess smiled. A rare, genuine smile. Then she addressed the crowd. "When I first saw Captain Kane, I laughed." The audience chuckled. Marcus rolled his eyes. Alyra continued. "I saw old armor and assumed weakness." The crowd grew quiet. "I saw scratches and assumed obsolescence." She looked directly at Marcus. "I was wrong." The princess stepped closer. "That armor represents something technology cannot replace." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" She nodded. "Experience." The crowd listened carefully. "Resilience." Another pause. "Courage." The silence deepened. Alyra smiled. "And humanity." Applause erupted across the plaza. Not polite applause, thunderous applause. Because everyone understood. The armor had never been the point. The armor was merely a symbol. What truly mattered was the person inside. The lessons carried through generations. The willingness to adapt. The refusal to quit. The ability to keep moving forward when every advantage disappeared. Later that evening, Marcus stood alone overlooking the city. Light stretched across the horizon. Peace finally felt real. Footsteps approached. Alyra joined him. For a moment neither spoke, then the princess looked at the armor. "Still wearing it?" Marcus laughed. "Probably always will." She nodded. "I think I understand now. The human glanced toward her. Understand what? The princess smiled softly. Why humans are so difficult to defeat. Marcus waited. Alyra looked toward the stars. Because you never put your faith in equipment. The human considered that, then nodded. Equipment breaks. And people? Marcus smiled. People can surprise you. The princess laughed, for once, not at him. With him. Together they watched the stars. And somewhere across the galaxy, the story of the old armor continued spreading. Not because it was ancient, not because it was powerful, but because it reminded everyone of a truth many civilizations had forgotten. Technology can win battles, but character wins wars. And on the day they mocked the humans' old armor, the battlefield eventually went silent.